Hello. Welcome back to Car Reviews with Saturn Spotter. This week we're going back into Saturns. I had to take a week-long break. Didn't want to overload everybody with Saturns. Feel like that's a good idea. That way it's not the same thing for 2 episodes in a row. This episode is going to be based on the 2nd and probably the 3rd gen. I'm probably going to throw a bit of 3rd gen in there. We'll have to see how it goes, how long I spent talking. Because today's episode is about the same generation as my chalkboard car. It's about the same generation that I drive the most, which is 2nd gen. I also drive 3rd gen every now and then, but not as often. That's just my wagon, my right-hand drive wagon. But it's kind of hard to say. I want to say 2nd gen is my favorite generation, but it's hard because 1st gen's so good. I don't know. I can't really pick between them because 1st gen is so good. The way the 1st gen cars look is great. The way the 2nd gen cars look are great. It's hard to pick between the two. But I'm excited for today's episode, getting back into Saturns. I'm actually recording this, on Friday, the Friday before the day this episode comes out. Trying to make sure I'm caught up. That way, if I'm ever super busy with work or something, I don't have time, I don't have to worry about it. I'll be able to still get episodes out on time for everybody who wants to listen. Because right now, I'm going on an episode-by-episode basis, and it can be pretty stressful having to make sure I have it recorded before a specific day. But hopefully, I'll have enough time to get another one recorded after this, get one set up for Thursday, and I can, be a little bit ahead. That's what I'm looking for. I try to do that with my YouTube as well, make sure I got stuff. Just in case I'm super busy, I still have the episodes and videos come out on a scheduled basis. Because that's what I want to do for my listeners and my viewers. I want to make sure they get the content they deserve on the schedule they deserve it. So that's what we're doing. Anyway, happy Tuesday, everybody. It's a Friday that I'm recording this, but it's coming out on Tuesdays. Happy Tuesday. Or getting closer to Thanksgiving. So that's exciting. I hope you guys have a fantastic Thanksgiving with your family. I'm thinking about if I'm going to do a Thanksgiving special bonus episode. I think it'd be fun. I just would have to find out what the bonus would be about. It's got to be something turkey related. And it doesn't have to be car related, but it'd be pretty cool if it was. If there's some sort of turkey related car, I'll have to do some research, see if there's some special Thanksgiving edition cars or something like that. But let's get right into it. 2nd generation and 3rd generation Saturns. I'm excited for this. Here we go. The 2nd generation SL sedans and SW station wagons were made from 1996 to 1999. They had both featured a completely redesigned exterior. The interior was mostly the same as on the 1st generation vehicles. While mechanically they weren't largely untouched, the redesigned 2nd generation S-Series went on sale in 1995 for the 1996 model year. A few minor changes were made for the 1998 model S-Series vehicles due to multiple complaints about noise coming from the vehicle's trip odometer that had been in all Saturn's S-Series since 1995. They had replaced it with a new type of trip odometer in an effort to correct the problem. For the 98 model year, a new cluster with a digital trip odometer had been introduced. Rear disc brakes were no longer available as an option on the S-Series due to high costs and very little improvement in braking performance over rear drum brakes. Beginning with all of the Saturn S-Series vehicles that were made in late 1999, they had received improvements to the single-cam and dual-cam engines in the S-Series. These changes included revised pistons, new connecting rods, and a new crankshaft counterweight in the engine as well. The twin-cam cylinder head had now featured a new roller rocker setup with hydraulic tappets and roller cams, replacing the conventional bucket lifter setup of the previous engine in the S-Series. Also introduced for the 1999 model year S-Series vehicles that were sold in California was a different type of exhaust manifold that housed an upstream catalytic converter, heated up much faster than the conventional unit, and also had better emissions. So, because that's, how California is. California, if you're a car person, California is the worst state to be in for cars and anything car related pretty much. There's not much of anything you can do to modify your cars, because if you do anything, it's illegal and you'll get the car taken away. It's pretty messed up. That's why I'd love to visit California, but I definitely don't want to live. Also introduced for the 1999 model year S-Series vehicles that were sold in California. Oh, I'm just reading what I just read. My bad, guys, my bad. It also has provisions for air injection reaction system, which injected fresh air into the exhaust to reduce hydrocarbons during the startup of the vehicle, which kind of cool. It would help the oxygen sensors and catalytic converters reach their operating temperatures faster. These vehicles were made to meet the all-new CARB ULEV standards for the 99 model year. Honestly, kind of cool, but also completely unnecessary if you're in any other state. So, California got their own little exclusive exhaust setup there with the second generations. The second generation SC Coupes were made from 97 until 2002. The second generation SC Coupes had also moved to the longer wheelbase that the SL sedans and the SW station wagons had used, resulting in an equal wheelbase length across all S-Series models. The redesign had resulted in a more curved look for the SC Coupes, which gave a slight increase in the vehicle's interior room space, as well as a completely redesigned exterior of the vehicle itself. For the 1999 model year, a front-opening clamshell door was added to the driver's side of the vehicle. Even though this door on the driver's side of the vehicle had allowed easier access into the vehicle's rear seat, the driver's seat in the vehicle was also able to slide forward to allow easy access to the rear seat as well. As a clamshell door, the rear driver's side door could not open unless the front door was open, because the door handle was on the inside of the door itself. And just like the first generation SC Coupes, the SC1 model lacked a rear sway bar, which you don't really notice a lot in those cars, because when you're turning, with it being front wheel drive, especially, excuse me, a lot of it, pretty much everything is all in the front. So, like, well, yes, a rear sway bar you'd definitely notice a difference. What these cars were built for, you're probably not even really going to realize it. But yeah, the second generation is when they introduced the clamshell or the suicide third door on the SC Coupes, which you only had one, but as you get into the third generation, you'll learn that they eventually ended up adding one for both sides. So you had 4-door. I believe there's a few models that have both of them. They're kind of uncommon though. You didn't see them very often. But it was cool. Honestly, once I got my eye on Redline, which has the same thing on both sides, you don't realize how much you're actually going to use them. You might think like, oh, I'm not really going to use that much, but it looks cool. I open that door every single time I drive that car. It's really helpful. It makes it so much easier to put any stuff you're carrying in the back or to get any stuff out. Like if you have a bag or something, you can just easily just open that back door, put it in the back, close that door. It's so easy. And it's honestly a really cool design. It makes it so you can still have that fun sports car, but you can also use it on a daily basis a little bit easier than if you were just having a sports car the whole time. I think it's really, really sweet. I really like the way they came up with that design. It's cool especially for a sports car, because it wasn't common at all at the time when that was being, freshly made and freshly released. You didn't really see that on anything except for trucks. So it's definitely cool. I really like them. I think they're fun to use, fun to show people, because there's a lot of people who also have no clue, because you can't really tell it's a door unless you already know. Also because the passenger side was just straight, just one door, so they probably think it's the same on the other side. And then you open up that third door and they're like, whoa, oh my god, it's so cool. Yeah, I like second generation a lot. It's probably some of the peak Saturn in my opinion. It's just a design that you really can't beat. It looks great, it performs great. It's a fantastic car for the second gen, and you really can't go wrong. That's why I have one. I mean, it's not the only reason, it's just part of the reason. So for a third generation, in 1999, for the 2000 model year, the Saturn S-Series had been redesigned for the final time before being discontinued in 2002. This resulted in the third generation Saturn S-Series. The exterior of the Saturn SL sedans received a new body panels from the belt line down. Sorry about that awkward pause. One of the trucks near me started up. Didn't want it to drown out the sound of me talking. But yeah, the third gen Saturn SL sedans received new body panels from the belt line down. The rear end of the SL sedans received a redesigned trunk, and the headlights of the Saturn SL had received orange turn signal indicators, which I'm not gonna lie, I don't like. I really don't like the third gen headlights. The just clearness of the second gen looks much better, and people have done a second gen headlight swap to a third gen, but they're not shaped the same at all. They're very different. It looks really odd. I just wish there was a way you could get that orange out of there, or just have fully clear ones. I'm not a huge fan of the orange. I mean, like, it's a nice little accent, but I'm just really not a huge fan. I think it'd look better without them. The interior of all the Saturn S-Series models received a completely redesigned dashboard, center console, and steering wheel, but the rest of the interiors were mostly unchanged. The SL2, SW2, and SC2 got the storage compartment with a sliding armrest in the center console as standard, whereas the SL1, SW1, and SC1 did not. I actually found one of those out of an SL2 at my local junkyard, and I got one for my wagon. So they're pretty nice. It's just that it's tan, and the rest of my interior is like black and gray, so looks a little funky, but it's not too bad. It's kind of nice to have it in there. Like the 1999 model year SL sedans and the 1999 model year SW station wagons that were made in late 1999, the 2000 model year SL sedan and the 2000 model year SW station wagons had also included a digital trip odometer, which did not cause any issues like the analog trip that were used in the 91 to early 99 model year. I prefer the mechanical ones. They're more fun. You get to literally watch your miles count up. It's really fun. I prefer them. I think they're cooler. I haven't heard a noise with mine. I don't know what people are talking about. I mean, I usually have my music playing anyway, so I can't hear anything over the music, but I've never heard any sound coming from my analog ones. I think they're a lot cooler though. I prefer them. The digital ones are nice because if you swap them from car to car, it automatically connects with the computer and automatically says your miles. The analog ones don't. So what's currently in my car is not accurate, but I know to add a certain amount of miles and then subtract blah blah blah, and I know how many miles I have. So it's not too big of a deal. It'd be cool if it automatically did it, but it makes sense. It's an analog, it's all mechanical, it's not going to work like that. I think it's cooler though. I prefer the way they look. The third generation Saturn S-Series was also the first Saturn to use the body control module and the powertrain control module, BCM and PCM systems, in tandem with each other. In the third generation Saturn S-Series models, the PCM system was used strictly for the vehicle's transmission and engine, whereas the BCM system was used strictly for the vehicle's interior functions, such as the digital tripometer and speedometer. Beginning with the 01 model year, side curtain airbags became available as an option. The optional side curtain airbags were only available to the 01 and 02 model Saturn SL1 and 2 sedans. So you only got extra safety if you got like the newest of the new SL1 and SL2. The third generation of Saturn SC continued to be available in SC1 and SC2 models. While retaining the previous generation's bodywork, it was facelifted with redesigned front and rear end fenders. The fenders and door panels were changed, continuing the character line all the way down to the fog light beneath the front bumper. A PCM and BCM were added. A new GT trim package had become available for the Saturn SC Coupes for the 01 model year, along with the option of American racing wheels that were only available on the GT version of the SC Coupes. A rear spoiler on the vehicle's trunk lid was also made available for the 01-02 model year GT Coupes. Yeah, those are really hard to find, not gonna lie. They're pretty uncommon. I don't think I've ever even seen one before. So good luck. They did have a lot of special editions for the SCs. They had a yellow one, they had the Bumblebee SC. They had a good amount of other, they had the white hot and the red hot coupes, which, if you don't know, for the red hot, it's just the whole car was red except for the side mirrors they were black, and the roof was black, I believe. I'm blanking right now. I have a thing about it. I'm just gonna read it instead of trying to guess. Let's see. In 1998 and 1999, prospective buyers of red or white SC2s had the option of purchasing the black top coupe package for $225 additional US dollars. The models were referred to as the red hot coupe or the white hot coupe based on the exterior color. The package came with a black roof panel, black outside rearview mirrors, black emblems, white face gauges, and black accented teardrop wheels. That's right, those wheels are super hard to find, but they're so gorgeous. I would absolutely love to get my hands on some and run them on my cars. They're beautiful, but they're really, really hard to find. But yeah, I was right. You get the black roof, the black mirrors, a special white-faced odometer, which those also go for a pretty good amount if you're able to find some, if you can resell them or anything like that. So next time you go to your local junkyard, if you see a Saturn coupe, check to see if it's red or white, and then check to see the roof colors. If the roof is red or if the roof is black on either of them, there's a good chance you just found yourself a white hot or a red hot. And make sure those wheels are on there. You're going to want to grab those. I definitely want them. In 1999, a second homecoming edition was produced in a special mint color with tan leather interior, special off-white gauge faceplates, and black Saturn badges to commemorate the second homecoming visit to the Spring Hill, Tennessee manufacturing facility. The 99 Homecoming Edition also had the same features offered as the 94, which you heard in the previous episode. Seriously a beautiful car. You should highly recommend looking it up if you haven't seen it. In 2001, a special yellow SC2 coupe model was also built. The model was officially named Limited Edition, but soon became known as the Bumblebee Edition. 99 of them were produced, each with a certificate of authenticity. The Bumblebee Edition included embroidered headrests, black leather interior with yellow leather inserts on the seats and door panels, black roof and mirrors, number designation inside the fuel filler door, and a certificate of authenticity. These are not to be confused with the regular yellow sport coupes. These things are beautiful. I love the Bumblebee SC coupes, and it's so crazy that they made less than 100 of them. I don't know why they couldn't have made one more, but they just decided to make 99 instead of 100. But they're beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. They're so cool. The interiors look amazing. The special embroidered headrests, really, really cool. Check for these as well at your junkyard. If you see a yellow, check the interior. If it's black with yellow inserts, good chance you found yourself a 1 of 99. There's a really low chance you're going to find that, though. There's only 99 of them made. I highly doubt you're going to really run into one. But they're fantastic. I'd love to have one for my collection someday. Probably won't, because by the time that I have enough room to collect more cars, those are all going to be destroyed or just gone, or people aren't going to want to sell them, which I understand. But boy, I would love to have one. For the 2001 model year only, a special edition of the Saturn SL2 sedan that was called the Saturn SL2 10th Anniversary Edition was made available. It's also known as the Silver Anniversary Edition. People will call it that as well. The Saturn SL2 10th Anniversary Edition had included several upscale features that were not available on any other Saturn S-Series vehicles, like power windows, leather interior, standard side curtain airbags, and several other upscale features. The Saturn SL2 10th Anniversary Edition also had Saturn 10th Anniversary stitch into the front seat adjustable leather headrest. The Saturn SL2 10th Anniversary Edition had also featured a rear trunk spoiler from factory, which that was an option on most SL2s, but this one was always there. So I have some production numbers for the different special editions here, which I think you'll find quite shocking. We have, all right, there's another one I didn't mention. There was also a bright red color for the 2001 model year. It was literally just a bright color red. That was pretty much it. They didn't make very many of them. I don't know why, but you never know. Now that it's a dead company, it's not like you can ask. But for the 94, the first generation Homecoming Edition, they made 3,500 of them. And most of those are probably crushed or have been wrecked or just rusted away. The 98 White Hot Coupes, they made 213 of them. And for the Red Hot Coupes of 98, they made 657 of them. So if you find a 98 White Hot, you better take care of it, because there's not many of those. For the 99 White Hot, they made 285, and the 99 Red Hot, they made 284, just one less. These numbers don't make sense to me. Why not make like an even, like just a normal number for both of them? Why not do like 300, 300? I don't know, it just doesn't make sense. You'd think they'd want to make it a specific number. I guess they just ran out of time. We're like, oh, that's all we got. For the 99 Homecoming Edition, there was only 4,000 of them made in that beautiful gold green color. It's a really cool color, especially in person. It looks great in person. Pictures don't do it justice. They only made 99 of the Bumblebees edition, as I said. They made 1,000 of the 10th anniversary editions, and those are definitely very valuable, especially even just the headrests and whatnot. If you can get the interior parts, you'll definitely get a good chunk of change reselling those. And they only made 664 of the bright red 2001 color. Now we're going to move on, as I said, to the right-hand drive Saturn that I own two of. One of them is a parked car due to unreal amount of rust. This is technically kind of a special edition, but this also gets more into what I talked about in the last Saturn episode about Japan and Taiwan and whatnot, so let's get right into it. In addition to the above-mentioned special edition Saturns, there was also the 99 through 2001 Saturn SWP Postal Station Wagon that were produced 450 in 1999, intended to be marketed to rural route mail carriers. These station wagons are right-hand drive vehicles. From factory, no conversions, none of that fake steering wheel on the other side. They were built right-hand drive. They're super, super cool. I absolutely love mine. They're so fun to drive, too, because people see a Saturn, and then they see you driving on the right-hand side, and they're just really confused. It's awesome. And anytime I ever tell people about it, they never knew it existed. So it's super cool. There were also a limited number of Saturns that were exported to Japan as right-hand drive vehicles between 1997 and 2000 during the second generation model. Aside from having the steering wheel on the other side, Japanese market Saturns were also fitted with slightly different light units. The rear lamps had amber turn signals, and the front indicators were mounted closer to the corners rather than inboard. The SL and SW's engine displacement and dimensions were within the Japanese government's dimension regulations and engine tax brackets. Only 1.9-liter engines were offered for the second-generation models, although the SC did not meet dimension regulations and would have been subjected to annual taxes. So if you got an SC model in Japan, you would have had taxes. You wouldn't have gotten the tax benefits from having a smaller engine. But if you got the SL and the SW, you would have been fine, which is pretty cool. Saturn faced a hard time in Japan, where it played directly into the strength of the Japanese manufacturers, comparing unfavorably with better priced and more competent Japanese compact cars. The interior especially received criticism. A mere 602 units were sold in Saturn's first year in Japan, which April to December of 97. I want to import one. I kind of want a wagon, but people would get confused with an SWP, so you wouldn't really be able to tell the difference as to what I'm currently driving, other than the light differences and stuff like that. But I would love, I know I talked about this in the first episode of this podcast, I would love a right-hand drive sedan. I think it would be so fun. I'm always going to say that until I can get one imported, hopefully, but Japanese importing websites never even have them for sale. Japanese first sale websites never have them, because they weren't really a big hit. They didn't do very well in Japan, which is unfortunate. I actually saw a clip probably a few years ago. There was a car show in Japan, and somebody drove up with a Saturn, and people were like, what even is that? I've never even seen that. So even people in Japan, they don't even realize they have them most of the time. Another problem was that Japanese car dealers have always excelled at customer service. This meant that Saturn's main sales argument in the US was meaningless in the Japanese market. The introduction of Saturn was also ill-timed, as the economy was amidst of the recession due to the effects of the 1980s bubble economy. As the Japanese had less money to spend on luxury goods, as imported products were regarded, Saturn found very few buyers. It's really, really unfortunate. it would have been so cool to see more Saturns in Japan, more of them getting modified. I have seen pictures of, like, I've seen a Bosuzoku Saturn in Japan, one of the coolest looking Bosuzoku builds I've ever seen. It's understandable why they didn't do good, why they weren't great, but I really wish they were more popular in Japan. I'd love to see more Japanese built Saturns. It'd be so cool, and I hope I can import my own someday. That would be the dream. And that will end off our second and third generation, as well as a few special editions segment for this. There wasn't as much there. Oops, there go my sunglasses. There wasn't as much information there as there was for the first generation. I think because a lot of it was covered in that first episode. But I know I want to do a future episode more on the history of the Saturn Corporation itself, not just their vehicles. I might do that before I get started with the ions and auras and all that stuff. So that'll probably be next Tuesday's episode. Potentially. We'll have to find out. I might record something else. But I want to get into some of the awards that Saturn has won. Now, this is going to talk about the Saturn L series, the Saturn Ion, all that stuff. This is going to be kind of a sneak peek at some of the future cars that are to come. But I want to start, listing them off and show you that Saturn wasn't hated by everybody. They genuinely did have a good platform, and people really, really loved and enjoyed the Saturns and using them, especially the people that were actually buying them at the time for a family car. They got a lot of awards and stuff, and let's go through them. So, for 1991, they received two Silver Anvil Awards for Community and Internal Relations. They received Popular Mechanics Design and Engineering Award for manufacturing processes that result in exceptionally high quality for an all-new vehicle. They received the Driver's Choice Awards for Best Small Car for Motor Week. In 1992, they received the Driver's Choice Award for Best Small Car again. The Saturn is in the top 10 domestic buys in the Motor Trend magazine, and where Saturn receives the Eve Award for Saturn's attempt to employ women and minorities. In 93, Saturn received the Best American Car Value under $13,000, Lowest Total Cost to Own American Car, and Best Overall Value Compact Class under $16,500 from IntelliChoice. Saturn received the Technology of the Year from Automobile Magazine in 1993. That's pretty good. In 1995, Saturn received Best American Car Value under $1,300, Best Compact under $1,700, Best Subcompact under $12,500, also from IntelliChoice. In 1996, Saturn received the Best American Car Value under $20,000, Best Compact Value under $17,000, import or domestic, so that's pretty good. Saturn receives the award for Best Small Wagon. Saturn receives an award for Best Subcompact. Saturn receives an award for Best Subcompact again, so that's pretty good. Saturn in 1997, Saturn receives Best Car Value under $20,000, Best Compact Value under $15,000, Best Subcompact under $14,000, Best Small Wagon Value, and Saturn is the leader in brands under $20,000. So they get a lot of awards for having good cars for a low price. In 2000, Saturn is voted Motor Week's Best Family Sedan. They got Best Overall Value of the Year for the SL1 and SL2. And Saturn in Spring Hill receives Most Valuable Pollution Prevention, which is pretty cool. In 2007, Saturn's Aura claims North American Car of the Year, which is really cool. And in 2008, Saturn's Outlook receives Parents Magazine's Best Family Car of 2008, Best Crossover Utility by Motor Week, and Best New Family Vehicle from Kelley Blue Book. So that's pretty cool. They got a lot of awards during their short-lived time. I really wish they could have been around longer. Although, part of me also feels like they lived during the good times, and if they were to have kept going, there's a really good chance it wouldn't be anywhere near as good as it was. It'd all just be rebadges now. It wouldn't have that special charm that it had before. So part of it is kind of like the same with Pontiac, although I think Pontiac would still be doing great if they were around today. But it's kind of the same thing where they kind of died after, well, for Pontiac this isn't exactly true, but Saturn died after its peak had already happened. Once they started rebadging Opals and other GM products, they just kind of became another car on the road. As much as I, love seeing auras and outlooks and views, the rebadged Chevy Captiva views on the road, they didn't have that special feeling to them because they were just rebadged other products. They weren't original Saturn vehicles. The dealerships started taking away their no haggle pricing as well. It just turned into another car dealership, and it's really a shame because they had something great going. But unfortunately, it couldn't stay. Originally, Penske Motors was going to buy Saturn, but it ended up falling through. In case you didn't know, we'll probably get more into that next week. But yeah, Penske Automotive were arranged to buy it. They didn't though. They didn't end up buying it, which is a shame. But as I was saying, it probably wouldn't have really been Saturn. It wouldn't have felt like Saturn. Whatever GM released, they would have just released it again as Saturn with a Saturn badge on it. So they already hit their peak Saturn time. So part of me is kind of glad they didn't keep going, because I think it would just kind of put a bad look on the name, I unfortunately don't have too much more to talk about, because that's pretty much the end of this subject. I could go ahead and mention their model lineup. Yeah, let's go ahead and mention their model lineup, which is what you're going to hear a lot more about these in next week's episode. But this is just kind of a sneak peek to get you ready. Then you're going to hear this Thursday's episode, which is going to be the Thanksgiving episode. I'm going to try to see if I can make a bonus episode, something fun. If I can't, it'll just be a normal normal podcast episode. But in case you didn't know, we already talked about the Saturn S series. Then there was the Saturn L series, which had a sedan and a station wagon from 2000-2005. There was the Saturn Vue from 2002 up till 2010. The Saturn Ion from 03-07, which had the sedan and the quad coupe. They had the Saturn Relay, which was a minivan from 05-07. Very hard to find. To my knowledge, they didn't produce many of these. They're really rare to see on the street, especially. They had the Saturn Sky Roadster from 07-2010. Probably the most popular Saturn, I would say, of all Saturns. If you were to ask somebody anything about a Saturn, they'd probably mention the Sky in one way or another. They'd also probably call it the Pontiac Solstice, because they're almost the same. They have the same performance body kind of thing. Then there was the Saturn EV1, which they didn't actually release to the public for people to buy. They were built and then they were sent to different schools and stuff to use to study the electric motors, and they ended up crushing majority of them. But there are a few that aren't crushed. There's one that's in some abandoned parking lot, I can't remember where, and there's one that's behind a school. They weren't technically Saturns, they were just GM EV1s, but everyone calls them a Saturn. They're basically a Saturn. They have the whole setup of a Saturn. I highly recommend looking up a Saturn EV1. They're really, really cool. I wish they sold them. They were fully electric, and they were built from 96 to 99. But yeah, they didn't actually sell them for public road use. It'd be so cool to see them going down the road, though. And they'd be great for today. I've also heard a lot of people saying if GM were to bring back Saturn, they'd be really good as an electric vehicle company to kind of compete with all the electric vehicles. As much as I don't want Saturn to become an EV brand, they do have a point. it'd be really good basis for EVs with the plastic panels and everything like that. It would work out really well, and at least there'd be more Saturns on the road, which would mean that there's more Saturn merchandise you can buy because we're running out of that. And maybe they'd start building more aftermarket parts for Saturns because there's not many of those either. Well, then there's the Saturn Outlook, which was just a full-size version of the Saturn View, which they had from 07 to 2010. The Saturn Aura, which is pretty much just a Chevy Impala from 07 to 2010. And then the Astra from 08 to 09. Very, very uncommon, very hard to find. They had the 3-door and the 5-door hatchback. So the 3-door is just the 2 front doors in the hatchback. They didn't. Technically, it's 3 doors, but it's only 2 like actual doors, if that makes any sense. But those are uncommon. They're cool, but they are very uncommon to find. So, to end off this episode, I kind of want to talk about the concept vehicles that Saturn had produced. There was a surprising amount of concept cars, and they are really, really cool. Unfortunately, none of them made it to production, obviously, seeing as they're a concept vehicle. But I think there are some here that if they actually produced, they would have been really, really well-selling vehicles. Of course, we have the Saturn prototype from 1984 and 1988. These were the first initial thought of what a Saturn was going to look like. If you actually look up pictures of these, they look kind of insane. They're pretty much like the most basic looking, like you think of a car when you're 6, this is pretty much what they look like. I love them though, at least I know for the first one. I love them. I think they would be so cool seeing stuff like this on the road. They ended up updating it to what the first generation Saturn SL is now, which isn't too far off, but there are definitely differences. There's the Saturn Sport Sedan concept of 1990. A little bit more of a realistic, like could have actually been produced model, but they didn't end up doing it. There's the Saturn SC Performance Edition from 1999, which I don't see why they didn't go with this. It's just a performance version of the Saturn SC. I really, really wish they would have at least produced a few hundred of these. Could have been a nice little rare car to have. There's the Saturn CV1. Now this is probably the most popular Saturn concept car there is. This was a SUV, but you could open the back door. Actually, you could open the doors any way. There was a handle on each side of the door. You could open it from the back side of the car or the front side of the car, and it would slide open. It's one of the coolest cars I've ever seen, and I hate that they didn't produce them. They looked really cool, and they had so much usability. There's so many things in that car you could actually use every day. The interior was kind of weird. It was like a pistachio color. I know that might have been just for the concept. And the actual like center console dashboard thing was weird. But it had a Lazy Susan in the middle. There was a Lazy Susan in the middle in the dashboard. Like, it was so sick. It was so sweet. I loved it. I highly recommend looking at pictures of this thing. I have some of the papers from when they announced this. Concept. They had projectors as well, because this was 2000. They were using projectors, and I have some of the projector squares that they put into the projector of different pictures of the concept car. It's really cool. It's one of my favorite Saturn concepts. It looks funky, but it seriously, I want to like find somebody that can make cars and have them make me a real life version of the CV1. It's so cool. It looks so it would have been so awesome and really, really helpful, especially for road trips. And you could like spin the seats around. Oh man, I don't know why they didn't produce it. I really think they should have. There was the Saturn SCX, which I'm pretty sure was just like a performance. Yeah, the Saturn SCX was basically just a 3rd gen Saturn SC, but with a really cool looking body kit, and it was supposed to have about 300 horsepower. it's pretty much just like the S10 Extreme. This was the SCX without the Treem. That was a weird way to put that. It had an interesting looking body kit on it. I wish they could have at least produced the body kit, but they didn't, unfortunately. I really don't know why. They definitely should have. There's a lot of these that they should have made, but they didn't. There's the Saturn LST, which was a, what year was it for? Let me tell you. Was also, so the Saturn LST was pretty much a sportier version of the Saturn L series. Actually, it looks sick. It's the coolest looking L series car I've ever seen in my life. It's one of those ones where they really could have made it like a special edition or a very limited run, and I don't know why they didn't. It would have looked really, really cool. I mean, it looks cool in the concept pictures, but if they actually made it a car itself, it would have, I think, performed really well. Now we have the Saturn View Urban Expression, which was a kind of like package for the Saturn View. It's pretty much the Saturn View Redline without it being the Redline quite yet. I think it was the Saturn View Redline concept. I'm explaining this really weird. Basically, this was the Redline, but they ended up releasing it under the View Redline instead of the View Urban Expression package. I don't think it had the Honda series, the Honda engine, like the Redline does. So we basically already have it. It's just a little different. But they also had the Outdoor Expression, Saturn View Outdoor Expression concept vehicle. Now this one is definitely different. It came with a really cool looking front bumper, which had like a bash bar built into it. You got chunky off-road tires. It looks really cool. Like, it's basically like a Subaru Outback of a Saturn View. It's sick. I do wish they made this, because I would love to take a Saturn View off-road. And I know a lot of people do, but this was like built for it from factory. You got some wider fender arches. You got a bash bar built in. You got a what's it called? What you put on the roof to strap stuff down? I'm completely blanking right now. A roof rack. Duh. You got a roof rack on it that like molds with the body. It looks awesome. I'm definitely disappointed that one did not come out. Now for the Saturn Sky concept, you guys know the Saturn Sky already, at least you probably do. The Saturn Sky concept car was not a rebadged Pontiac or Opel. The actual concept for the Saturn Sky, the front of it looks like a Bugatti. It looks like a Bugatti Veyron in the front. And it had the suicide opening doors. I wish this thing came out, because this would have been a really good way to say the final goodbyes to Saturn by still making it an original Saturn design, not just a rebadged Opel. It looks kind of funky, but I really like it. I think I like it more than the Sky we have now. I definitely recommend looking all of these up, but especially this one, because it's almost impossible to describe what it looks like if you don't have pictures. The front looking like a Bugatti Veyron is pretty much the only thing you can describe. Everything else it's something of its own. You can't describe it. It's two-door with the third suicide door on the driver's side, just like the SE Coupes. It looks cool though, and it was convertible, of course. They kept the convertible. I really wish they made it though. That thing was so cool. Then there was the Saturn Ion EFX, which was basically like a package. Hold on, let me, if I can learn how to, there we go. The EFX concept was a performance package with a body kit on it, which looked pretty good, but it's not my favorite. It's very sleek. So it's for the quad coupes, so almost a Redline, but without the supercharger and all that. It's just a very sleek body kit they put on it. You got some nice wheels. You got the black pillars. It looks pretty good. I don't know, again, why they didn't just produce the kit. They easily could have. I've seen people make like different variants of it, but it's not the exact kit. It looked cool. I think they really could have produced it and it would have been fine. I don't know why they didn't. We have the Saturn Ion QC-T. Let me find a way to describe this the best way. It's kind of hard because they are concepts, so it pretty much was a Saturn Ion quad coupe again, but it had a hood scoop on it and a similar to the last Ion kind of package going on with the body kit. It wasn't much, but the Saturn Ion Rally concept, which is the next one, oh, do I wish this existed. This is practically the Subaru WRX of Saturns. It looks incredible. You get wide wheel arches from factory. You get a nice roof scoop that's actually functional. You get hood scoops. You get giant fog lights in the grille. It's basically a Redline, but it looks so cool. It's so sick. I haven't seen this picture before. Oh, dude. I wish they made this. This is the coolest looking Ion I've ever seen. The Saturn Ion Rally concept. 2003. Look it up. It's so sick. Look it up. Next we have the... Oh, I don't even want to stop talking about it. It looks so good. I would so easily get the 2004 Saturn Ion Redline Blue exclusive color, painted that, put some white wheels on it. Oh, or some gold ones. Gold wheels. Basically just turn it into a Subaru. It looks so good because I love the older Subarus, the 04, 06, the Subaru WRXs. I love them. And the Ion Redline kind of looks like one a little bit. If you're looking at the right, I mean, I've had somebody come up to me in a parking lot. It was like a parking lot, and they were like, "Hey, nice WRX," and I'm like, "Thanks." And it was really funny. He's like, "Wait a minute, that's not a WRX," and I'm like, "No, it's a Saturn." He was like, "Oh, anyway," then he drove off. Ah, man, I want to find somebody that can like make my car look like that. That thing is beautiful. That's got to be my favorite one. As much as I love the CV1, looking at the Ion Rally concept, it definitely takes the cake. Incredible. Next we have the Saturn View Redline Street Play and Saturn View Spring Special. These are once again just kind of body packages with some different body panels. I guess they just kind of threw them out as a concept of like, hey, here's some things we can do, but we're not going to do it. I don't really know why. We have the 2004 Saturn Curve. This thing is crazy if you haven't seen it. This looks more like it'd be in a video game, and that's it. It's kind of similar to like a Mercedes kind of style. It's really weird. It's a really weird looking car. I'm okay with the fact that this one didn't get produced because it's very strange. It looks, I mean, I know Saturn's whole thing was like futuristic, and it definitely looks very futuristic, but I just don't think it would have been great as an actual production car. It's definitely better as a concept car. I think they did a good job with it as a concept, but I'm okay with the fact that this one didn't come into production. Just looks kind of weird. It's interesting though. I'd love to see one in person. And the interior wasn't bad. The interior is pretty good. It kind of looks like a Pagani in the inside. But outside wise, wasn't great. Now for the 2005 Saturn Aura concept. It's basically what we have now, but it looked a lot better. So the concept, you had wheel arches, you had a nice little trunk spoiler, you had some front fog lights, you got big like 20-inch rims on there. It looks great. But instead what they decided to do was turn it into just a rebadged Impala that we have now. It looks fantastic. Honestly, it looks aggressive, it looks sporty. You got those nice wheel arches with the nice wheel fitment, you have a sunroof, nice set of exhaust on the back. It looks good. But then they killed all the niceness of it. You got the Saturn Preview, Prevue, not like. Now this thing basically just a Chevy Captiva. Honestly, this looks more like an Infiniti. It's ginormous. It looks so weird. I'm okay with the fact that it's just a rebadged Chevy Captiva. I mean, I'd rather it be original, but this is not it. It's very bulbous, very large, kind of hard to look at. We had the Saturn Flex Stream, which was opal, but it would have been rebadged as Saturn. It kind of looks like a Chevy Volt. Oh, it has the same platform as a Chevy Volt. That's right. So it's just a Chevy Volt that they made look extremely futuristic. I think it would have been cool, but it probably would have been so expensive they wouldn't have been able to produce it. And we're going to end this off with the Saturn Astra Tuner concept car, which, if we take a look at that, this is basically kind of like what happened to the Saturn Aura, where it could have been something really cool, and they killed it. Because this looks sick. This looks like a sporty hatchback. I love it. And then they just turned it to the most basic, boring car. Not really, it's a Saturn. It's not basic and boring, but they killed what could have been such a cool car. Could have been great for the tuner scene. They released it at SEMA, so I'm sure everybody was disappointed when they saw what they actually released after seeing what could have been the Saturn Astra Tuner concept. But that's going to be it for this Tuesday's episode. Next episode is going to be Thanksgiving. I hope you guys have a great time with your family. I hope you have wonderful turkey, wonderful stuffing, or whatever you eat on Thanksgiving. I know it varies for people. I've had a lot of fun recording this episode, and I can't wait to get the next one recorded and then record all about the Saturn company itself, not just the vehicles. I thank you guys so much for listening to these podcasts. It means so much to me seeing all the support, how many people are already listening and sharing the podcast. I appreciate it so much. If you haven't already, be sure to rate the podcast on Spotify. I would appreciate 5 stars, but of course it's up to your choice. But that helps me a lot, helps get more people listening, so that way we can get... The bigger this podcast gets, the cooler the people we're going to have on this podcast. I hope to one day have Donut Media on an episode with me. I want to talk about the Donut Media cars with Donut Media on this podcast. I would love it. I'd love to have Noriaro on the podcast in an episode talking about his Sylvia S15 and his AE85, all that. I mean, 86, my bad. It's an 86. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. If you hear this, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I apologize. Alexi, I'm sorry. But the more people we get watching this podcast, the more guests we can have on, and we can do super exciting episodes in the future. So I appreciate your support. Be sure to check out my Instagram. That's where you're going to get the most updates on this podcast, my YouTube channel, and all the vehicles that I own and am going to buy in the future and make terrible financial decisions with. And check out my YouTube channel for videos on car shows and stuff like that. My Instagram is Saturn Spotter, and my YouTube is the same. Thank you guys so much for your support. So happy you're here. Have a great day. Good luck. You got this. I'll see you guys in the next podcast. Goodbye.